I run a business,
Sure.
and it's taken me a long time to get into local authority and local government spend. And I feel that when I've been to some of these workshops, that a lot of people could do with advice. And the Mayor's office is a big procurement of funds, as all the London councils. What would you do to make sure that that imbalance is broken?
I mean, what you did miss before was talking about one of the biggest things that I want to do is create a level playing field. And what I said before you came is, we were talking about lending from banks, for example, that if a black-led business has just as good a business case as a white-led business, but there is discrimination in lending, then we needed to make sure, well, for a start, there might be a prosecution there because it must be illegal to discriminate on the grounds of race, whether you're a bank or an individual. But we need to, if necessary, create our own small business bank within the Mayor's office to make sure that black businesses are given an equal opportunity, if the business case is as good, to make up for the discrimination that's currently occurring in financial services. For discrimination in the job market, in that young black men are less likely to get into employment than white young people. And give them additional training and additional, so they have additional skills, so that it's a no-brainer for employers to employ those people. We need to make sure that black-led businesses also have the skills to be able to present their business case in a way to local authorities, where local authorities have no choice because it's so clearly better than, or at least as good as the white businesses that are lending. I don't believe in positive discrimination. I don't think. I mean, it's not within the Mayor's power anyway to say to local authorities, you must give 50% of your businesses to your contracts to black businesses. But what we can do is give extra help and support to black businesses. Give them the skills necessary in order to make a powerful argument to the local authorities that's irresistible. And we have to monitor it closely. We have to make public. You know, there's nothing wrong, even if I don't have any control as Mayor over local authorities, there's nothing wrong with me saying, Londoners, you might be interested to know that this proportion of contracts by this local authority were lent to white-led businesses and this proportion to black-led businesses, compared with this local authority. And it can't be a difference in the quality of the bids going forward, because how come this local authority gives 25% of their contracts to black-led business and this one only gives 5%? Yeah. What's going on? It's about naming and shaming. All London buses are actually provided and operated by private bus companies. And it's written into those contracts that every 5 years, they have to replace those buses with new buses. And it's part of that contract where you can specify in the contract what sort of bus it is that is provided under that contract. So in fact, the financial burden of moving to electric buses will actually be borne by the private bus companies who provide the service. You want a contract with Transport for London, that's fine. But within 5 years, you will have to convert your fleet to electricity. That is what happens now. That's how Boris Johnson got rid of the bendy buses. He said whenever the contract came up for renewal, he said to the bus company, you've got to replace all your bendy buses with the buses I like, which is the double-decker buses. And what we will say is, don't worry about changing from bendy buses to double-decker buses. We just want you to change from diesel buses to electric buses. If you compare all the manifestos and who has the most ambitious targets around house building, it's our manifesto. We are saying that we should be able to build 360,000 new homes over the next 10 years on brownfield sites. So we've scanned London and we've looked for places that aren't green spaces, aren't back gardens, that you can build homes on, and there is space for 360,000 new homes. What a lot of people don't know is from May, the Mayor of London will be the biggest landowner in London, because there's Transport for London land, there's land that used to be owned by the London Development Agency that's owned by the Mayor. On that land, we can build social housing, in old language, council houses. And so 100,000 maybe council homes is what we can build. And what we do is we don't need to buy the land, we own it already. We get private investment from the City of London. That's only 40% of what it would normally cost to build because you've taken the land cost out. And when it only costs 40% of the normal cost to build really good, decent homes for people, you can afford council house type rents for those properties and still get a really good return on your investment, probably better than you would get on building yet another Westfield shopping centre. So, I'm absolutely passionate about social housing, and I always have been. It was a bit of a joke, really, because everybody keeps asking me, well, who are you going to vote for second preference? And last time, once the votes were counted, I told people that I voted for Left List, very left-wing. And the one reason why I voted Left List was because they had a massive social house building programme, council house building programme in their manifesto. That's how passionate I am about that issue. And we honestly believe over the next 10 years we can build 360,000 new homes, a very significant proportion of those council houses. Some people who don't want the responsibility, who want to live on the street, is the first thing to say. There are other people who are caught in this dilemma. They can't get a job because they don't have a fixed address, and they can't get a home because they don't have a job. And we need to help anybody who is in that situation. And a lot of people have got, it's very complex issues. They've got emotional problems, or they've got mental health issues, they've got addiction problems as well. But wherever we can, we need to help those people with the support necessary to get them off the street.
What about council tax? Are you going to be brutal and go in there and push council tax up?
Well, Liberal Democrats on the London Assembly, because let's not forget, May the 3rd is an election of London Assembly candidates as well as for the mayor. And, although we've only had 3 Assembly candidates during the last 4 years, anybody would think there was 300 of them the way that they dominate the airwaves in terms of the policies that they're promoting and the comments that they've been making and the way that they've been holding the mayor to account. So every vote for the Liberal Democrats counts on May the 3rd. But in terms of council tax, Boris Johnson announced a 1% reduction in the mayor's precept, the mayor's bit of the council tax this time round. We put forward an alternative budget which was a 3% reduction. And what we promise in the manifesto is to freeze council tax, the mayor's element of council tax, over the next 4 years.
Can I just take this opportunity to introduce Deputy Leader of Lib Dems, Simon Hughes. Welcome to the forum.
Pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. Any invitation from you is one that cannot be resisted.
Thank you. It's good. Just take a few words for Simon in terms of your support.
Give me a breather, Simon.
Thank you very much. I wanted to come not just because the chair invited me, but because the voice is very important. And bluntly, as a South London MP, if we don't support the black community effectively as politicians, we're not doing our job properly. 4 things struck me when I was just reflecting over the weekend again about what Brian and the Assembly candidates have been saying in terms of how the people the voice caters for, particularly the black and minority communities, would be better served. 1, there would be fairer policing. Young people need to grow up, young black boys in particular, not only boys, need to grow up in London feeling they are treated fairly and respected fully. And until that changes, actually life in the inner city will always be a struggle and have tension. And that can be done, and Brian has been very clear and has all the authority and experience of his 30 years in the police service as to how that can be done. And it's about not stopping and searching unless you have just cause. It's about treating everybody the same. It's about making sure there's a proper independent scrutiny of the police, outside the police, and making sure, bluntly, the consistent, persistent problems of the police having differential treatment for some people in the community goes. That's the first thing. Second thing is, as people come to the end of their school days, what do they discover? We have had differential performance from many black Londoners than from other Londoners. And again, the manifesto is clear. There needs to be much more support in secondary school to make sure youngsters stay in school and don't go out of school, that you respond to their needs from 14 onwards, and that you give them the encouragement through policies that keep them on at college and at university. And last year when I was given the job by the government to make sure that we didn't lose out from youngsters from non-traditional backgrounds going to university, in the end we were quite pleased, because through huge efforts in London, going to pretty well every secondary school, every college, we made the point that you can afford to go to college and university. It will not be prohibitive. And once you get the message across, there's no reason why young black youngsters are not as bright and able to pick that up as anybody else. They understood the case. And so the numbers applying almost didn't change at all, even though the fee structure changed. There's an issue still about support for people going to college, and there's a commitment to the manifesto to help with that funding for those who are struggling with college places. It's very interesting, talking to increasing numbers of black youngsters. They actually talk about doing their own business. More and more and more, they talk about doing their own business. Sonia and I and others talk about it's not about going to work for somebody else, it's about working for myself, working with my family, working with my friends. Again, there's a commitment in the manifesto to help with a fund for people to set up their own business and be supported. Really important if we're going to have that diverse economy. In the end, it may be a global business, but it starts often very small. And lastly, unemployment rates and some of the structures of London transport disproportionately affect black Londoners. So what I mean by that is, if you look at the profile of those out of work between 16 and 25, there is a disproportionate number of black youngsters in that group. And all the evidence is that if you don't have good work opportunities between 16 and 25, it prejudices your whole work career. So the incentive to have the youth contract for London that Brian has talked about often, and our assembly candidates have talked about often, is about making sure that nobody leaves school without something to do, that something gives them skills and qualifications and work experience and training and the chance to get better jobs. But also, for those who have some work, that we have, and Caroline Pidgeon has led on this, a fair structure for the system that means that you help people who are doing the part-time jobs, the jobs early in the morning. Disproportionate numbers of people who go to work before 7 in the morning, surprise, surprise, are from the black and minority communities, because they often do the more antisocial hour jobs. There is a high proportion of people in part-time work, particularly women. And therefore a fair structure that made it easier, took some of the financial pressure off for those who travel to work at 6 in the morning, or those who travel to work at 3 in the afternoon, or those who work 3 days a week, not 5 days a week, would be really helpful on tight budgets. So I hope what we've seen is an understanding of the mix of London, and how if you're going to have a fairer society, you have to do certain things specifically targeted at certain groups. You know, I'll just say one thing mischievously. I have a constituent who said to me on Sunday, do you know, I hadn't decided who to vote for, but I've decided it's going to be that Mr. Padlock. So they are, Mr. Padlock. Mr. Padlock, you've broken through.
If I just have the opportunity to ask the very last question. We have seen elections for mayors competed between two parties. Third party has always thereabouts. Do you think this is a chance, this is a time now for the Liberal the Democrat to be the mayor?
You know, in 2000, Londoners voted for an independent mayor. In 2004, they voted for a Labour mayor. In 2008, they voted for a Conservative mayor. Londoners like change.
Yeah.
And this is another opportunity for change. They are fed up with Ken Livingstone and Boris Johnson fighting each other. They are talking negatively about the past. What Londoners want is a mayor who is optimistic about the future, who sets out a vision for what London could be like in 4 years' time, in 10 years' time, if there was another change. And I think Londoners really want to be optimistic. They really want to make this great city of ours even better. They want to make it a fairer place. And there is a real opportunity to do that on May the 3rd by voting for me as mayor and voting for the London Liberal Democrats.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'd just like to say thanks, and I know you have other things that you can do, but thanks for sparing the time to speak to the voice readers, because all of this will be put to them. Thank you very much for your time.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
We've had a very interesting debate. We were joined by Lib Dem mayoral candidate Brian Paddick, and we were also joined by Lib Dem deputy leader Simon Hughes. We discussed everything from racism to youth homelessness. Hope you've enjoyed watching. This is for The Voice Online. Thank you very much.